Welcome, my amazing viewers. Thank you so much for joining me on my program once again. I appreciate you wherever you are joining from. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please kindly subscribe to my channel. Click the notification bell so that you'll be notified each time I upload a video. You will be among the first to receive it. Thank you so much, and remember,
US, in the UK, in Saudi Arabia, South Africa, in Canada, and so on. So what is the reason for this new syndrome in Nigeria? Why are young people so, well, not just young people actually, even older ones, are so eager to get away from this country, whereas this is the only country that we have? Well, we're going to discuss this with two gentlemen this morning. It's my pleasure to welcome the head consultant and CEO of IntelServe, a business consultant and a business intelligence analyst, Mr. Roman Osegale.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
He's with us in the studio here in Lagos, and joining us virtually is a human resource and education professional, Mr. Yomi Fawayimi. Good morning.
Okay. Good morning. Nice to have you. Good morning.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Osegale, why are you still in Nigeria?
A very great place to start.
Okay. I am actually engaged to a company which I'm consulting for. And I think I came in last year, and the company saw what I did.
You came in?
Last year.
You mean you were away?
No, I came in to the country last year.
That's what I'm saying.
I really don't.
You had jackpot.
Yeah, I've been out of this country for quite a while. So I visited last year, and a company engaged me. So
you're among those we're talking about.
So that's why.
Yeah, since jackpot.
I've left this country since 2013, but before then, my family had left, I think, in 2005. So I was just going back and forth.
What was the reason for them leaving?
Well, I think
for all of you leaving?
It got to a point, my wife then just got fed up of the medical practice here and said she wasn't interested in practicing medicine here anymore. I think something happened where she works, and she said, you know, the extent of what was going on, it wasn't professional, and the way they practice medicine in Nigeria was not professional.
You know, this is it's disturbing, because these are the same doctors who leave this country, and they're doing fantastically well in other climes. And our governors and our big men in this country live here to go for medical treatment abroad, and most of the time it is Nigerian doctors who attend to them.
So, see, you can't stop people from migrating. If you look at Europe in the 1700s, 1800s, and 1900s, a lot of people left Europe to the New World, and that's North America. And it was basically because of probably the feudal system then, and poverty, and also they say Europe was built on war, and the war that was going on in Europe. So I want to read something to you. It says, from the United Nations, it says, why people migrate. People move in search of work or economic opportunities to escape poverty, to join family, or to study. Others move to escape conflict, ranging from insecurity, persecution, terrorism, or human rights violation. Still, others move in response to the adverse effect of climate change, natural disasters, or other environmental factors, which may include population density and demography. Now, what you need to look at here, which of these conditions does Nigeria fall into?
Almost all.
So, no. So, from your findings, what have you been able to
Good.
find?
I'm a data person. I don't talk outside numbers. I sent in some slides before now, and if they will project those slides, it will be nice.
Which one of them?
Let's go to slide 1.
Okay.
slide one.
But before you speak to those, let me ask Mr. Fawemi, perhaps for his own opening statements as well. This trend is not new to you. I mean, you've been hearing about this for a while as well. And what is concerning now is the new wave, so to speak. The new wave of people emigrating from Nigeria. I mean, classic case, a memorable case of the Japa syndrome in the 80s was Andrew. I'm sure you remember Andrew. It was on the NTA, and it was literally saying, people, don't leave Nigeria, we all can make it work, and all of that. But it seems no one is interested in that anymore.
Interesting, and thanks for connecting with Andrew. Right, it's very interesting. I mean, before the 80s, we should actually go further down. I mean, so if you check the people that were the leading lights of the fight for independence in Nigeria, the Awolowos of this world, the Tafawa Balewas of this world, most of people in that generation at one point actually left Nigeria abroad. So we had those leading lights who did that. And it was just because of the fact that they had to leave, because some of them wanted to pursue educational opportunities that was not available in Nigeria. I mean, the first major social political organization that late Obafemi established was actually established in the UK. Now, so that was the first generation. Now, let's remember the fourth generation of Nigerians that left Nigeria abroad went through slavery, so they were forced to go. So before we even talk about in the 2000s, let's remember the first set went by slavery. The second set went to pursue economic and educational for purposes. So that's the generation of the Awolowos and co. The next generation was the generation that left in the 50s. They went in the 50s because some of the educational results had started to come in, and some of them wanted to become engineers. I remember you had two options then in Nigeria if you wanted to do higher education. You have the Yaba College of Technology available for you and the University of Ibadan. You remember the University of Ibadan was essentially more humanities and the arts at that point, and the tech opportunity. So you have a lot of people who had to go abroad to pursue those ambitions. So that was the second generation. The third generation was the 80s, and it was just a result of economic challenges and also education, because at that point, that was when we started to have a relatively high failure rate of WAEC. At that point, the 80s Japa for the young people was more like people who didn't pass WAEC will go abroad and go and become professionals. I mean, and they go study and stuff like that. Now, we have, like, in my view, a fourth generation, which is a reaction to the socio-economic situation we have in Nigeria. But let us remember, because when we talk about this Japa, there is a sense in which we feel is a Nigerian problem. If you go back to traditional or classical economics, there are four factors of production. Of those four factors of production, the most mobile is capital. So today we celebrate foreign direct investment, we celebrate foreign money coming to Nigeria. We don't have a problem with that. Now, the second factor of production that is most mobile is labor. Labor will always respond because it's a mobile thing. If you think about it, we're all walking on two legs, and those two legs are supposed to make us move. Now, it's not only Nigeria that are moving, it's a global phenomenon. When the US Open was concluded this week, and that young man, the 19-year-old, I told somebody that the winner of the US Men's Open is a teenager. He's 19 years old. If you check the guy's story, there is the element of Japa, if you allow me to say, in immigration there. So I wrote a very short article that my conclusion after observing young winners of tennis in the last couple of years is that there's practically a story related to immigration to it. So, and the immigration does not have to be from poor countries to rich countries. There's actually sometimes within rich countries. We had a situation in one of the Grand Slams where two teenagers got to the final, and one of them emigrated from the UK to Canada, while the other one emigrated from Canada to the US. So you see a situation that people are responding to where they will likely get.
What is concerning for us, Mr. Fawemi, is that it is literally depleting the system. I'm sure you understand why the concern is high now. It was the same thing, as you rightly pointed out, in the 80s when the federal government put out words through the official, well, the government stations then, that Nigerians should stay in the country. It's like depleting the human resources of the country. That is what the concern is, and it will seem like the same thing is happening again. Those other places, better opportunities, of course, but the concern here is, of course, people are not happy with what is happening in the country, socioeconomic reactions and all, but it's not just looking good now, nor in the future.
Okay, great point. But let me also put it back to you. You watched the Olympics game. You saw the number, the way the women made us proud, winning gold medals, from people like Toby Amushon to some of the Paralympians, as we call them then, winning all of those medals for Nigeria. My question to you is that how many of them were in Nigeria? How many of them that represented us were living in Nigeria? Toby Amushon, for example, is a young lady that used to run in Ogun State. At some point, a university abroad pushed her, developed her, and she now represents Nigeria, and she won the gold medal, and we were all happy. So when you say depleting, when Toby Amushon left, what was the depletion? What was the gap our absence created, and as our absence not being a benefit to us? So the point I'm trying to make is that people migrating is not a problem. The problem is, what are you doing with those resources? So, for example, I am not currently in Nigeria. Your TV station reached out to me and invited me to join the discussion with you in Lagos. Now, the question is, if you tell me that I must come down physically, you will not be able to have the opportunity for us to have this dialogue. But you have created a system that made me contribute to what you are discussing.
Are you then saying that the Japa syndrome is not a concern?
It's not a concern, Mr. Let me talk to Auntie Alera and to you. All of you Japa to Lagos, you're not Lagosians. You were born in Ife, Oshogbo, Ilesha, Kanembele, the Benin Kelby. You were born in Benin. You were born in Asaba. You moved to Lagos. Why is it that we can accept that somebody can move from Ogun to Lagos, and that same person now moves from Lagos to Canada or to Europe, and we are complaining?
Okay,
it's not the same thing.
It's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. We are still in our country, Mr. Fawaimi. We are still in Nigeria.
In the 20th century, borders of nations are just markers of identities. They are not determinants of the flow of resources, of knowledge, of contribution.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Any country.
Okay. All right, Mr. Fawaimi. Thank you.
We'll come back to you.
Do you agree with him?
I don't, and I'll place my arguments on analysis. As I said earlier, let's go to slide 1. If they're going to project the slides, between 1981 and 2021, the naira,
there it is.
Good. The naira has depreciated against the dollar, a currency it was once stronger than, by 67,605%. Nobody's looking at the numbers.
67,000%.
Let's go back to Andrew. You see, when you match numbers against timelines, against events, then things become clearer. Why was Andrew living in the early 80s? The same thing that happened in the early 80s is happening all over again. The oil boom of the 70s ended in 1980. Between 1980, 81, 82, 83, I think 81, 82, 83. Let's go to slides, please. Go to slides 4. Between 1981, 82, and 83, Nigeria recorded a combined trade deficit of $19.96 billion US. While the oil boom came to an end, that means our GDP dropped. GDP per capita dropped. And as that happened, as the trade deficit came in, inflation came in, your wealth started being eroded. Now, I read initially why the UN says people migrate. Majorly why people are migrating is because of economic reasons. And if you look at what has happened again in the year 2000s, the oil boom of the year 2000s, if you look at this graph, between 2004 and 2013 alone, we recorded 182.3 billion in trade surplus, all coming as a result of what? Oil boom of the 2000s. That ended in 2013. Between 2013 and 2014 and 2020, we have recorded 102 billion US dollars in trade deficit. Your wealth is being eroded again. So what happened in the early 80s, why people were jackpotting in the early 80s, is happening again. So until...
Economic reasons.
Good. I, for one, for instance, if you bought a house or you built a house in 1981, when the dollar equals 61 kobo, maybe for a million naira, that means that house was worth maybe about 1.3, 1.4 million in US dollars, right? Now, look at the value of that house today. Maybe you'll be selling for 250 or 300 million, if you're lucky enough. Ouch. What is the value in US dollars today? Ouch. So in 40 years, you're actually walking backwards. Today, let me show you something. Go to slide 5. Slide 5. As of today, your per capita income is lower than what you had in 1981. So 40 years after, or 41 years after, as of 2021, you're poorer. So the reason why people are moving is because they want wealth, they want to build wealth that can be preserved. Yes. I think 2018 or so, 2017, I can't remember, Dangote said he wanted to open a New York office. When he was being interviewed, he said something about preserving his family wealth. But people could not lay a hand on what he was saying because the naira was eroding. And what makes it so bad is that during boom, economic boom, and during economic recessions, the naira depreciates. It's only the difference is just the rate of depreciation. During recession, it depreciates faster. During growth, it depreciates slower. Why? Because you have a lot of trade surpluses that supplies your dollars. So that alone helps stabilize the naira to some extent. But
so, essentially, you are looking at the economic reasons.
Yes, people are living for economic reasons.
Okay, but
second, let me quickly say this. Second, the poverty, the middle class is being eroded. There was a time I came on this studio where I talked about the poverty trap. Now, how much do you spend on school fees? By the time you calculate your school fees in a year, you cannot build wealth. That's the truth. So people are moving to climates whereby they can create and build wealth over time, where the currency is stable. And for us to be able to stop this jackpot syndrome, you need to address those issues. Without that, people will leave. You can't hold people back.
Is that the only reason why people are leaving? Just the economic reasons?
Majorly.
Okay.
95%.
Well, Mr. Fawemi, you heard that. I'm sure you may want to react to that. Do you agree that, because it's not just for, there are many definitions then, but the economic reasons primarily is what many people, always attach the reasons for leaving the country to?
Data can be masked. Data can be presented to tell stories. You can use data to tell stories. That's the whole essence of data analytics, right? But you must also look at it holistically, because human beings earn wages. There is a sense in which we can use data to prove that the only motivation for human action is money. But we know that there is also intrinsic and extrinsic motivation for why people move. People move because of economic reasons. People move because of their own personal aspiration. I just told you, I mentioned names of people who left Canada to go to the US because they want to become world champions in tennis.
But Mr. Fowler, that is valid.
Sorry,
sincerely.
Just a minute. Just a minute.
Okay.
You know a Naomi Osaka. You know her story. You know she left Japan to go to the US to become a tennis star. So the point I'm trying to make is that there are myriads of reasons why people get back. But I'm not sure that is actually the issue. I think the bigger question we should ask as Nigeria is, what can we do to maximize every Nigerian resource wherever he is in the world?
Perhaps before we get to that, because already one way or the other, Nigeria benefits from her citizens all over the place. But the concern, is that a much higher number of young people are leaving the country, and they'll do anything to just get out of the country. For instance, if I can borrow Mr. Segale's slide here, and I think it's the second of the slides, speaks to overall youth unemployment and underemployment rate in the country. Yeah. If you look at the fact that young people don't have jobs and the opportunities are just not looking nice to them, look at the figures that you can see on the screen. If the opportunities are not just good enough or nice enough for them, they want to, as we say, go to greener pastures, also known as Japa. So, speak to that, because if the opportunities were at home, would they really leave the country?
No.
Again, I'm an HR professional, right? That's what I do for a living. That's what I train as. All these arguments that the only reason why people are moving is for economic reason, I'm saying it's not the only reason. It's an important reason. It's a critical reason, but that's not the only reason.
But it's the reason a higher number of people are leaving. Perhaps they would leave, but maybe not just at that same velocity.
Again, don't forget that we should not use Lagos to determine Nigeria. The reason why many people are leaving Lagos, remember, I always try to say that there's a sense in which living in Lagos makes us feel what happens in Lagos is what happens all over Nigeria. Remember, Lagos is a peculiar situation because many people migrated to Lagos. They already started a migration path, and it's easy for them to move again elsewhere. If you go to talk to somebody in other parts of Nigeria, this fear of many people are leaving. I am an HR professional. I sit on boards of HR professional institutes in Nigeria. It's not the reality of every part of Nigeria because of the fact that some people have chosen not to move. The point I'm trying to make is that economic reasons drive a lot of migration. For the younger people, particularly today, over 1.8, 1.9 people write JAM. Admission was only given to between 400 and 500,000. That gap, those people will seek for economic opportunities. Remember also two other factors which are external to what we do in Nigeria is the fact that many countries in the world are deliberately hunting for people. I gave the example of the UK. Immediately Brexit happened and the Europeans had to leave the workforce in UK. The UK government strategically took a decision to increase the number of international students and give them access to work afterwards. Many Nigerians went on that thing. There also the fact that globally, countries are developing strategies to hunt for people. I give the same example of Tubi Amusha I mentioned.
Again, Mr. Fawemi, you just underscored the importance. Why, leave the gaps? Let me bring that to you, Mr. Segale. The examples. We'll come back to you. We'll come back to you, Mr. Fawemi. So why leave the opportunities for other people to reap from the brains of your professionals?
To answer that question, let's go to slides. No, let's go to slide 8, please.
I want us to begin. We have just a second. We have just about 15 minutes to close this. So we need to begin to look at solutions.
Good. Now,
how do we reverse the trend?
Look, to reverse the trend, you need to invest. You need to look at the problem, cause and effect, right? Look at slide 8. United States, human capital. Of all the wealth the United States has, human capital accounts for 244 trillion. Physical capital, all those razzmatazz you see, the high rise, the highways, all their infrastructure, only account for 62 trillion. So the human capital assets ratio, let's just say 4:1. Look at France, ratio 3:1. Look at Britain, ratio 4.2:1. 4.2:1. You understand? Now, if you look at the investment in human capital, it's not encouraging. We have what I mapped out when I looked at the Western world, Asia, then I came to Africa. You may want to go to slide. Sorry, please. You may want to go to slide 3. Nigeria invests the least in the world. Why are these people taking your human capital? Because human capital assets is the largest chunk of assets any country has. You need to understand how these things work. The World Bank classified the wealth of every country into 4 broad categories: produced assets, human capital assets, natural assets, and your net foreign assets. The OECD countries, on an average, 75% of their total wealth is human capital. The United Kingdom, 89% of the total wealth of the United Kingdom is human capital. 75% of US wealth is human capital. Japan has the highest. Over 90% of their wealth is human capital. So they know what they are doing when they are telling you we want skilled labor. They are taking your wealth. As of 2012, Nigeria's total wealth, 55% of it was human capital. So let me ask you, if you have different asset classes and you have to invest, will you not invest in the one that gives you the highest return? Obviously, that's where you put most of your money. That's what the Western world is doing. That's what we are supposed to be doing. That's what we are not doing. And that's why people will continue to live. They see that you have these assets. The asset will bring them productivity. Productivity will bring them profit. Productivity will increase their economy. So it is not just about Japa. They are depleting your assets.
But Mr. Sehale, if they have invested so much in theirs and they have so much of their own, why are they still doing long throat for our own?
You need to understand. Let me say this. If you go through the process, if you go through all the industrial revolutions, first industrial revolution, second industrial revolution, third industrial revolution, the proposed fourth industrial revolution, you will find one thing that is certain, that repeats itself: migration. And when you find out migration, the first industrial revolution, steam engine, Europe, England, Britain, then, you know what they did? The government quickly moved in and passed policies. Because they did not have enough skilled people, they opened their borders to skilled immigrants from Eastern Europe. The same thing, the US, the second industrial revolution, over 10 million people entered the US.
From
you understand?
Europe.
Yes. They know that these things are going to grow their economy. So basically what is going on now is the human capital need for the fourth industrial revolution. We are not looking at it.
Okay. Mr. Fawemi, I go back to an example that I heard of the University College Hospital in Ibadan, that people came from that country where you are now to give birth in Nigeria at UCH in Ibadan. Call that migration, perhaps because the eggheads were there and able to do that. But I'm not sure how many people will confidently want to do that anymore. Speak to some of the issues that you've heard Mr. Sehale raise in the light of this example that I just gave.
So again, let's talk data. 2019, citizens immigration to Canada by country. 2019. The highest country was India. You may talk about poverty, but the next country was China. 3 times more Chinese came to India than Nigerians. There were 12,600 Nigerians that immigrated to Canada. Because we keep saying this thing as if 1 million Nigerians are left, 12,000. Now, let me tell you what will shock you. 12,000 Nigerians immigrated to Canada. 10,000 Americans immigrated to Canada. So the number of Americans and the number of Nigerians that immigrated are almost the same number. I'm looking at the data here. Just to say, human beings are designed to move. And the question we need to ask ourselves is, as a country, what do we do to benefit from where our people is? I give the example of the U.S. As a U.S. citizen, you are supposed to file your tax wherever you are in the world. You work in Togo, you work in Eritrea, you work in Ethiopia. When you make money there, it doesn't matter whatever you are doing there, you are expected to still file your taxes for the U.S. government and pay a difference. That's what the U.S. has done to ensure all its human capital all over the world is still paying tax to the U.S. That is something we need to try to think about. I give an example again of Cuba. Cuba has invested heavily in the health sector. We have doctors. As I currently speak, a territory in Canada is going to mobilize nurses from Cuba to come and work for 5 years. The Cuban government has designed a system where countries come there and get their people, and their people are made to pay taxes despite the fact that they are working in Canada or they are working in the U.S. You've seen it happen over time. When we had Ebola, you knew what Cuba did. For those that like football, we're all here. I mean, many people like football. Later in the day, there'll be a lot of football matches. The EPL is composed of players who are not essentially from the UK. The UK has created a system. They claim that they introduced football, but they have created a beautiful system that have attracted footballers from all over the world. They make a lot of money and they pay taxes to the UK government. Why, for example, can't we as Nigerians start to think about it? We train somebody to be a doctor from UNILAG or UCH, or to be an engineer, or to be an HR person. The person in Nigeria, if he attended a federal university by policy, tuition is free. He gets a Nigerian certificate. After he finishes NYSC or before he goes, he leaves Nigeria and goes to work elsewhere. And we don't have any scheme to ensure this person contributes to Nigeria. What other nations are doing deliberately is to ensure that if you got free tuition education and you leave, you will have to either return the money for the free tuition you got, or you have to contribute to that system. That is what countries are doing strategically to ensure they get value from their people. A Nigerian, by definition, by our constitution, is not somebody who lives in Nigeria. A Nigerian, by our laws and our constitution, is somebody who became a Nigerian either by birth or through the grandparents or become nationalized. Those people are Nigerians, and we must start to think about how to maximize them wherever they are. Whether they are running in US as Toby Amushon, whether they are playing football in Spain like Osimhen, whether they are dancing like my dear friend Segun Lawal is doing in UK. We have to create laws and policies and systems to ensure these people contribute to the state. That is what we should deal with. People will move when they choose to move. Our current President Buhari, was born in Daura. He moved to Abuja because of opportunities. If he finishes there, he's going to go back somewhere else. The problem is not fighting whether people move or not. The problem is wherever you move to, contribute.
But you, Mr. Fawemi, have always been concerned about the states and the standard of education in the country. So the fact that people, I know that because we've had conversations around this. So the fact that the education is not going the way it ought to go, and human capital flight also equals financial flight, is something that concerns anyone. Somehow, I feel it concerned you at some point.
No, but so the question is, do we want to keep talking about the problems, or what can we do about it?
That's the point. See, one of the challenges here is, if the people who are supposed to, I mean, you heard Mr. Segale talk about, you know, the value of human capital in the different countries. Mm-hmm. And so if this value leaves the country, who is going to add, or how do we add value to the nation as it is, when it's the brain of the person that is more needed, not the money that the person is going to repatriate home?
So the question we need to ask ourselves, so what do we do?
Exactly. So what do we do?
I have taught in 4 universities in Nigeria since 1996. And there was a point in the whole of the West African sub-region, the only country that had people trained to become meteorologists in this West African sub-regions was a university in Ondo State. That was the only program of meteorology. There was a time that the only program to become a mining engineer in the whole of the West African sub-region was another university in Ondo State. And what was happening was there was a massive influx of students from Cameroon, from Liberia, from Niger, coming to that school to learn and to become a student, and we're paying Forex at that point. The question we ask ourselves now is that where are those unique things that we are creating to attract people? Because the question is, sometimes this immigration is a question of plus minus. Okay. Some of your people will travel, some people will also come. We need to start to create those things again that we attract people. Okay. You gave the example of University. I mean, let me stop on this note. You gave the example of University College Hospital in Ibadan, the UCH. Interestingly, the Queen just died. She was the one that commissioned that building. There was a time when the normal thing was that the elites of Africa come to give back there. Why do they do that? We have created something to attract them. So part of what we need to start to think about is what we should do to create that. And we're already seeing that in what happens in December in Lagos. The amount of people that come back to Lagos between December and January for the various social events and the various activities that happen that time already shows we can start to attract people. The question is that what can we do to make them stay longer? Okay. What can we do to make them contribute? Right. That is what we should be doing.
So we must start winding down now. So we must start talking solutions now. Okay. Things that we can do to make sure that our citizens stay here and to attract other people so that we too are among those who are bringing in human capital.
Okay. So he said something about 10,000 Americans moving to Canada.
As opposed to 12,000
yes.
Nigerians.
Now, you need to find out the level of people who leave the U.S. who come to Canada. They are not their best brains. Most of the people that come to Canada,
working class.
Yeah, probably maybe looking for the social system. You understand? So there's a problem when you're best, and then the amount. I said something before when I was giving my opening speech, that you can't stop people from migrating. There are different reasons. But our major, over 90%, will tell you it's economy, right? Now, if you want to look at it holistically, how many people went to Canada? Maybe 12,000. I think in 2015 or 2016 alone, about 15,000 Nigerian nurses and doctors went to UK. Do you understand? So when that majority are your best brains, if that happened in the US would declare a state of emergency. And they want to know why these people are leaving. So to reverse, to go back to your question or your comment that we need to start winding down, what are the solutions? See, we operate what I have come to term an asset depletion economy. Look at it. How many people are in Canada? How many people are in Europe? Scattered around all over other African countries. Our economic model is not designed to create wealth. It impoverishes the people. You see the inflation, the erosion of your wealth over 40 years I showed you earlier, right? Until people are convinced and they have that, well, yes, I can be here, make my wealth. In 20 years' time, I know that I'm going to be worth this. If you work in those countries, you can make your projections. Yeah. They are very easy. But here, you can't make projections. That is why people want to move. Second, if you look at that same slide 3, human capital development, we invest the least in the world. The countries that invest the high amount of money or funds in human capital development, you find out that their best brains most of the times are in the country, because they know that the country will mean well for them and their future. They can be used. Most people here, look at underemployment from one of the slides we showed. Yes, underemployment is so high. So you finish school and then you graduate as maybe an engineer or doctor or something, and you're going to drive Uber. You're underemployed because you're not utilized to your full capacity. All these are frustrating to the average citizen of the country.
Okay. Now, talking solutions, I mean, you also heard what he said about creating structures around values
Yes.
that can either retain people in Nigeria or motivate Nigerians abroad to repatriate funds, to pay taxes to the country, and all of that one. What do you make of that?
Well, the taxes, okay. I think Nigeria has tax treaties with most countries, right? So in such a case, it might go 50-50.
Thank you so much for your patience to watch from the beginning to the end. I hope you have learned something from the video you have just watched. The video you have just watched is to bring information to your doorstep and for educational purpose. It is not to demonize anybody. Let us watch continuously and see who can be able to make a sense out of every nonsense we are seeing. We must continue. We move. It doesn't matter what they do. It doesn't matter what they say. They will kill us. We will kill them. At the end of the day, Biafra is here. Thank you for watching. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please kindly subscribe to the channel. Click the notification bell so that you're notified each time I upload a video. You will be among the first to receive it. Thank you and remember blessed. Bye-bye. See you again.